Also, another release by Vestron Video. So we covered Shivers a little earlier. This one was also released by Vestron Video. If you haven't seen the Shivers Should You Buy, check that one out unless you don't care about Shivers, and then you can ignore it. But this is Little Monsters. So this is a movie that, I don't know. I guess it has its fans. I'm sure this has a cult following. I'm sure of it because just about every weird movie has a cult following. I think I watched this when I was a kid, and I think Howie Mandel's character really, really freaked me out. The monster really freaked me out in this movie, so I just had an aversion to it. I rewatched this. The question is, should you buy this? I'm going to tell you in 5 minutes or less. The answer to that is, again, I said it for Shivers. I'm going to say it for Little Monsters. I think this is a rental first. I think you should rent this first. First of all, if you've never seen Little Monsters, it's a divisive movie, man. Again, I'm sure it has its cult following. I think this feels like a low-rent Beetlejuice. That might be an opinion that's going to catch some fire in the comments. Hit me with it, man. If you love Little Monsters, hit me with it. Listen, we all love Fred Savage. He's a national treasure. The dude was in the Wonder Years, one of the most underrated shows of all time. I love the Wonder Years. I'm a huge fan. So props to Fred Savage, but this one did not do it for me. This is a little on the goofy side. Howie Mandel is obsessively annoying in this movie. You can't go 5 minutes when he's not on screen and not hope that he meets his demise by the end of this film. This film tries to take on some adult themes. It has some good adult humor. I will say there were 1 or 2 times where I did find myself laughing, but it kind of fails taking on these adult themes because you just don't care. I did not care about what these kids were going through. I also think child actors just in general are terrible. Now, Fred Savage does a good job. Ben Savage does a good job. Some of the other characters in this movie are awful. Again, I know that might be a hot take, but that is how I felt. Let's talk about this particular release, though. I thought the picture looked pretty good. The grain was super fine. It was handled pretty well in most scenes. There were times when I thought it was a bit much, but very rarely throughout the film. The darks looked really good in this. I thought they handled the darks really well. For this being SDR and not HDR, because this is a Blu-ray release, I thought the darks were handled really well. They were inky black. There wasn't really a lot of gray in there. You could tell black was black. So I thought that was really well. The colors are vibrant. The details were good and solid in some instances. Some instances they weren't, but in some instances they were. You could see the clothing, some facial features. There was some detail in the face. Edge lines are pretty clear here. I don't think this is a bad release. I just think the bad acting, and in some scenes it was so overly bright. I just felt the brightness on this. I questioned whether or not my TV was too bright. I had to take a look at what my brightness settings were. I was like, I need to turn this down. Did something happen? No, it's just some scenes in this movie are kind of bright, kind of on the washed out side. But in most instances, pretty good detail, pretty good coloration, pretty good blacks. Again, in my opinion, there's a decent amount of extras here. You get an audio commentary. There's some interviews on here, vintage footage. So you get a decent amount in the extras category. But again, I just think this movie is so bad that it's hard for me to say you should buy this. Look, if you're a fan of Little Monsters, this is probably the best this movie's ever looked. This is probably the best release you're going to get of this movie. So I would say pick this up if you're a huge fan of Little Monsters. If you're not, again, I said it with Shivers. I'm going to say it with this. Rent this first and make sure that this movie is not... make sure you enjoy it, because I just didn't. This is a good transfer of this movie. This is a good cut of this movie. This is a good Blu-ray. But the movie's so bad, I can't say this is 100% you should buy this. If you're a fan, yes. If you're not, rent this first and make sure you don't think this is trash.